Hey guys, good morning. This is George David with George David Investing. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the unsayable, the unspeakable, which is this AMC stock about to rip all the way up to 100K. Some kind of crazy mathematical thing. Maybe it's not so crazy. Now, as you guys remember, about a couple of videos back on the AMC series, I talked about how AMC was poised to go into a short squeeze, which would accelerate the price. When I started that video, the price of the stock was 11, 12 bucks a pop. And the other day, we got all the way up to $34 a pop there, right? So, I'm big on long-term investing. AMC stock is coming out with that brand new sale of about $230 million worth of shares out. So, is this all of a sudden going to race the price of AMC stock up to about 100K? Let's talk about this in this video. It's going to be super interesting, okay? And as always, not only about AMC stock and the potential for a astronomical spike, we're going to talk about just how astronomical that short squeeze is for AMC, because there's a lot of great fundamental things going on with the company and what I love about the stock sale. But as well, we're going to be talking about some of those macro events in the 6, 12, 24-month time frame that could impact your portfolio and the market as a whole. So let's break it all down. So AMC stock, there was a lot of upward momentum. Just how high can we go? So first of all, AMC, brilliant move about issuing that additional shares to finance operations. As you know, back in 2020, AMC was absolutely clobbered when COVID hit and took in a significant net loss. Now, AMC is vital. The business model is vital. And if you do your due diligence, you go out, especially in your states that are open, and you take a look at theaters, there's wait lists. There's significant amount of desire to go in person to theaters. And not only is that reflected in just sheer volume of traffic, but also that's reflected by the fact that prices are going up. So this is awesome upward pressure on the balance sheet of AMC. Now, there's other big positive momentums as well. First of all, if you look at the stock versus where the company was kind of flatlining in the late 20-teens, well, the price isn't even factored that in. When you take a look at the fundamentals, prices are going up. There's a lot of pent-up demand, and that's tangibly reflected. Then you look at a stock that's actually poised and undervalued compared to some of those other tech companies that experienced all that growth. Now, like I said in the other video, when the price of AMC was 12 bucks a pop, I said just from an undervalued standpoint, there's a lot of momentum for AMC to go up. Now, that upward momentum could be exhausted around the $50, $60 price range. Then we start looking at the technical short squeeze side of things. So just how much upward pressure is there with AMC? So if you just look at AMC alone as a company, then you see a lot of undervalued, and that gets factored into the price. And it was just about 2 weeks ago undervalued. That's the crazy thing out of this. So there's a lot of momentum for the company just to go up in general. But how high can AMC go? Now, that short squeeze has already started, but it's nowhere close to being exhausted. If you remember GameStop back in January, February 2021, once that short squeeze happened, it accelerated upwards. Now, there's a big narrative about just how high AMC will go. And I can tell you this, just like I said in the other video, 10x is very possible. Now, is there a chance that we go all the way up to 100K? That's not likely, because that's an astronomical push. And there isn't enough capital to push it all the way up to that point. It's not impossible, it's just highly unlikely. But if you're still, if you're enjoying this video, by the way, go ahead and smash that like button for me. Helps grow the channel. And if you haven't subscribed already, consider subscribing to the channel. I try to post something of value every single day for you guys. But anyways, what I'm talking about is just how much growth is out there for AMC. There's a lot. We don't know specifically just how high it can go, but I can tell you this. If you got in a couple days ago, then you definitely have that 10x potential there. If you're getting in now, there you still have that short squeeze potential. You just are running with a little bit less room. Now, is AMC, like I always talk about, I'm a long-term investor. Why am I even talking about AMC? Well, from just a perspective of the company being undervalued, it was a good play, let alone that there's a short squeeze consideration. Once you have the company issuing new shares, that's a positive momentum into financing some of those improvement operations and debt issues that they ran into during COVID, and being able to handle that and expand capacity, take in all of that pent-up demand. And, simultaneously, they're increasing prices well above the inflationary levels. So is AMC stock something you want to hold, or something you want to sell pretty quickly once it hits its apex? The answer is, once you start dealing with short squeezes in that nature, it's a little bit more of a short-term play than a long-term play. But if there wasn't a short squeeze in consideration, then you definitely want to hold AMC just from getting in at an undervalued point all the way to that market top. Now, there's other factors that make AMC really appealing, so you want to stick around for me to explain this. But this also has to do with other aspects of your portfolio as well, and that is the inflation rate. So, like I talked about in my other videos, back in May of 2021, the market was spooked with an unexpected 4.2% inflation versus the estimate of 3.6%. Today's the first day of June. What are we going to see once that report comes out? There is a chance, and a lot of this also has to do with the fact that oil prices are predominant in that inflationary calculation, because that affects not only your transportation and fueling costs for both transportation, auto, and home, but it percolates into food, even construction, lumber prices, and all those things. That number might come in at 6%. And if you guys love Tesla, I love Tesla. We've seen that hit very hard in Tesla space. You have big entities like Michael Berry even putting short positions on Tesla. So there's a lot of things to consider in that respect. But when you take a look at this with AMC, then you see there is a lot of momentum that was going towards those undervalues. And there were some very savvy, large institutional investors that did recognize there was an issue, let alone the fact that you have the whole Reddit gang coming in to AMC. But, they recognized the opportunity just from a sheer value standpoint that AMC was not pricing in those expectations of earnings beats. Now, if you look at the report, up until about a month or two ago, most states were not fully open. And every time you saw the earnings report of AMC, earnings got a little bit better. Now, they always missed, but they got better and better with the misses to the point that they're very, very close. What I'm expecting is just do your tangible due diligence, that their AMC is poised to do significant beats over those next earnings reports. And that's why you want to, if you have the stomach to weather some of those big, spikes and higher plateaus that AMC is going to naturally have with the short squeeze, then they're going to have a lot of earnings that once those earnings reports come out and they absolutely smash, then you're going to have one day where you're going to have a 70% spike in the stock just sheerly due to the fact that earnings were so killer and most people aren't expecting it because they're not doing the due diligence. And that's what you always got to do. You got to do the due diligence. Is there actually a marketplace for my product or service? So those those inflation rates are part of the reason why we saw that upward pressure. Now I want to talk to you guys about something else. I always talk about today's stock market news. We know about the tax story. We know about that future correction that's going to be coming around, that big infrastructure and tax bill that's going to come down pretty shortly down the pipeline. The bigger one is the fact that we keep getting problems with hackers. And a lot of companies are even just trying to keep it hush-hush that there's such a big problem. Now, the big issue with that is, and how this relates back also to AMC, is that anytime you have oil prices start creeping upwards, especially in a very busy summer month, there's an issue with supply chain. There's an issue with the total amount of supply of oil. This causes upward pressure on oil. And as I talk about, if you run into a situation where oil prices, crude oil prices, go at least 50% above the average of the last 2 years, you'll peak the market and you'll start a chain reaction that's going to cause a recession and also a stock market crash. Now, those are a lot of big spooky words. So let's look at the chain of events here. We're going to see some issues with inflation when that number comes up. You're going to have corrections, especially in those big tech company areas that are profitable, because those are, anytime you have inflation, that simultaneously lowers earnings because the value of money is less with inflation. But the bigger factor is oil prices. And we really got to start watching that out for 2022, 2023. You know, an overheating economy, GDP is expected to come in somewhere around 6 to 10% at an annualized rate. So those are considerations if you're trying to hold AMC, if you're trying to hold some of those other entities that aren't are pretty close to fully maxed out with growth. We got to look at that, because that's going to cause a pretty big stock market crash once those levels are overvalued. But you can rise that high plateau with AMC. You could rise your Apples and stuff like that. You just have to be cognizant of the fact that, you know, once those oil prices start going up, once those hacks start causing issues, once there's a supply chain issue as well, then you've got to start considering being able to, you know, take profits where profits are due. Or if you have a company like Tesla, ride out those dips, buy that dip again, and take that upward swing. So let's wrap up this video. We talked about AMC stock. There's a lot of buzz about, oh my God, this could be the biggest mathematical thing, short squeeze, blah, 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 that's going to send up the price to 100K. I think that it's not likely it goes up to 100K. I think realistically speaking, there's at least 10x upside. Even from this point, we're starting to hit that max 10x level. If you got in at, you know, $12, you know, when I was talking about it first time, got up to 34 the other day. So that was a really nice game. I think that's over 3x. Then you should be easily able to make at least 10x with, you know, AMC. But if you're getting in just now in the 20s or lower 30s, you know, your upside is a little bit less, but at the same time, there is some chance for some good acceleration. That has to do with, number one, the fact that the stock is actually undervalued. Number two, the fact that they're opening up shares to consolidate some of their issues. If you just take a look at their pent-up demand, increase prices to take care of that pent-up demand, then there's a lot of upward pressure. And also the fact that, you know, future quarterly, especially the next quarter that comes in, is going to cause some tremendous upward pressure on the price of the stock. So there's a lot of room to run. 100K is a little bit high of a number. I'd love it. I think everyone would love it. But, you know, my job here is just to be as accurate as possible. And like I said, there's lots of great investments. I'm a long-term investor, but when there's value, I'll make sure to communicate it to you guys so we can have a conversation about just how much higher our bag can go. So that wraps up this video. If you haven't done so already, please smash the like button. Helps grow the channel. Definitely appreciate it, very much so. Also, 50 subs, you guys. I know that's not that big of a number, but if you think about it, that's like a gymnasium full of people. So I couldn't have done it without you guys. Truly blessed, very humbled to be able to do this. And finally, if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. Not only does that give a help to the rankings boost of this video, but also helps grow the channel. And I try to provide, you know, value as often as possible. Try to do it every single day. All right, guys, have a good one and ride the wave.